Hello and welcome to today's session of the Beyond Shakespeare YouTube channel. Today we're finishing off the John Fletcher comedy The Woman's Prize, or The Tamer Tamed, dating from the early 1600s. It's a response and a sequel to a couple of more famous comedies about combative romantic relationships, or what's sometimes called the Battle of the Sexes. So this is a long, busy play with a lot of plot, some really quite fantastic language and impressive dramatic construction. We've had a tumultuous time of it, and there's still quite a bit of plot to go, so I'll try to keep things moving along fairly briskly. So we've arrived at Act 4, Scene 3, and we're going to be reading from there until the end. I have a very kind of brief attempt at a plot synopsis, but very brief plot synopsis because there are entire series of comedic television that have less plot than this play so far. So we have two sisters, Maria and Livia. Maria is freshly married to a guy called Petruchio. She loves him, but she does not want to be subdued by him. He has a reputation as a wife tamer and a woman breaker, and she is not about to be broken. So she is making him jump through all of the hoops. She's barricaded him out of his house and in his house. She's had him declared ill. She's threatened to bankrupt him and flirted so heavily with one of his friends that he is convinced that she is cheating on him. She isn't. And she loves him, and she wants it all to be okay. Her sister Livia is in love with a man called Rowland. Her father, however, their father, who is called Petronius, is trying to marry her off to a different man called Moroso. In her attempt to reconcile these two conflicting things, she has irritated and heartbroken Rowland so much that he's sworn never to have anything to do with her again. Meantime, Moroso thinks they're about to get married. Behind the scenes of all of this proto-feminist hijinks is a woman called Byancha, their cousin, and her kind of ally in this, who is trying to reconcile the lovers Livia and Rowland, is Tranio. Sophocles is the flirted with friend, who is innocent in all of this, but nevertheless flirted with. There are a pair of servants called Pedro and Jaques, Jaques that we see a lot of. And I think that's pretty much the dramatis personae. Phew! Okay, so we begin at Act 4, Scene 3. Enter Tranio and... What?
You haven't done parts.
Well,
You have to go through the roles.
I'm so sorry. I haven't done roles. You see, I should have said I haven't hosted in a while, so I'm out of practice. My apologies. So, playing today, Livia is...
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Amisu, and I'm an author based in Romford.
And playing Rowland is...
DiRoberto. I'm an academic in Tucson.
Okay. Playing a servant and Maria is...
Hello, I'm Lynn. I live in the Northwestern United States. This is my faithful assistant, Scooter.
And Tranio and Byancha will be read by...
Hello, Dan, actor based in Montpellier, France.
Our epilogue today, as well as Petruchio, is...
Liza Graham in London.
And Jaques and Moroso will be played by...
Rachael, actor on the East Coast.
Pedro and the father, Petronius, is...
Alan Scott, already confused, in Suffolk.
And Sophocles and Livia are...
Hi, I'm Eric, and Livia is Elizabeth Amisu.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot that's my old note. You see, I told Sophocles.
I am many people as one.
You are. And I am your rather confused host, Aliki Chapple. I will kind of issue one further injunction or kind of general idea, which is that we are thinking about this play in terms of a modern staging, as much as more than anything else. And, you know, the topic that concerns our comical characters is quite a serious one. What a healthy heterosexual relationship might look like, and this is a topic on which the common opinion or the general agreed on consensus has changed radically, not just in between Fletcher's time and our own, but in living memory. So yeah, this should be fun. We begin, therefore, with Act 4, Scene 3. Enter Tranio and Rowland.
Nay, on my conscience, I have lost my money, but that's all one. I'll never more persuade you. I see you are resolute, and I commend you.
What did she send for me?
You dare believe me?
I cannot tell. You have your ways for profit allowed you, Tranio, as well as I have to avoid him fear.
No, on my word, sir, I deal directly with you.
Enter servant.
How now, fellow, whither post you so fast?
Lynn, you're muted.
Sorry. Oh, sir, my master, pray, did you see my master?
By your master.
Sir, his jewel.
With a gilded button?
My pretty mistress, Livia,
What of her?
is fallen sick of the sudden.
How are the sullens?
Oh, the sudden, I say, very sick.
It seems she has got the toothache with raw apples.
It seems you have got a headache. Fare you well, sir. Did you not see my master?
Who told you so?
No, he did not see him.
Farewell, blue bottle.
Exit servant.
What should her sickness be?
For you, it may be.
Yes, when my brains are out, I may believe it. Never before, I'm sure. Yet I may see her. 'Twill be a point of honesty.
It will so.
It may be not too. You would fain be frigging with this old sin offering of 200, Tranio. How daintily and cunningly you drive me, up like a deer to the toil. Yet I may leap it, and what's the woodman then?
A loser by you. Speak, will you go or not? To me 'tis equal.
Come, what goes less?
Nay, not a penny, Rowland.
Shall I have liberty of conscience, which by interpretation is 10 kisses? Hang me if I affect her. Yet it may be this horse and manners will require a struggling of 2 and 20, or by your lady 30.
Fair lady, I'll require my wager then. For if you kiss so often and no kindness, I have lost my speculation. I'll allow you.
Speak like a gamester now.
Maybe two.
Under a dozen, Tranio, there's no setting. You shall have 40 shillings, wink at small faults. Say, I take 20. Come, by all that's honest, I do it but to vex her.
I'll know by lows. If you can love her, do. If you can hate her or any else that loves you.
Pray thee, Tranio.
Why, farewell, £20. 'Twill not undo me. You have my resolution.
And your money, which since you are so stubborn, if I forfeit, make me a jack-o'-lantern my shins for untagged points and compters, I'll go with you. But if you gets a penny by the bargain, a parting kiss is lawful?
I allow it.
Knock out my brains with apples, yet a bargain.
I tell you, I'll know bargains. Win and wear it.
Thou art the strangest fellow.
That's all one.
Along then, 20 pounds more if thou darest. I give her not a good word.
Not a penny.
Exeunt. Act 4, Scene 4. Enter Petruchio, Jaques, and Pedro.
Prithee, entreat her come. I will not trouble her above a word or two. Exit Pedro. Ere I endure this life, and with a woman, an avowed one to all the mischiefs she can lay upon me, I'll go to plough again and eat leek porridge. Begging's a pleasure to it, not to be numbered. No, there be other countries, Jaques, for me, and other people, yea, and other women. If I have need, here's money. There's your ware, which is fair dealing, and the sun, they say, shines as warm there as here. Until I've lost either myself or her, I care not whether nor which first.
Will your worship hear me?
And utterly outworn the memory of such a curse as this, none of my nation shall ever know me more.
How to last, sir? What a strange way do you run?
Any way, so I outrun this rascal.
Methinks now, if your good worship could but have the patience.
The patience. Why the patience?
Why, I'll tell you, could you but have the patience.
Well, the patience.
To laugh at all she does, or when she rails, to have a drum beaten off top of house, to give the neighbors warning of her alarm, as I do when my wife rebels.
Thy wife? Thy wife's a pigeon to her, a mere slumber, the dead of night's not stiller.
Nor an iron mill.
But thy wife is certain.
That's false doctrine. You never read of a certain woman.
Thou knowest her way.
I should do, I am sure. I have ridden it night and day this 20 year.
But mine is such a drench of balderdash, such a strange carded cunningness. The rainbow, when she hangs bent in heaven, sheds not her colours quicker and more than this deceitful woman weaves in her dyes of wickedness.
Enter Pedro.
What says she?
Nay, not a word, sir. And she pointed to me as though she meant to follow. Pray, sir, bear it even as you may. I need not teach your worship. The best men have their crosses. We're all mortal.
What ails the fellow?
And no doubt she may, sir.
What may she, or what does she, or what is she? Speak and be hanged.
She's mad, sir.
Heaven continue it.
Amen, if it be his pleasure.
How mad is she?
As mad as heart can wish, sir. She has dressed herself, saving your worship's reverence, just in the cut of one of those that multiply in the suburbs, for single money, and as dirtily. If any speak to her, first she whistles, and then begins to compass with her fingers, and points to what she would have.
What new way is this?
There came in Master Sophocles.
And what did Master Sophocles when he came in? Get my trunks ready, Sirrah. I'll be gone straight.
He's here to tell you. She's home, Mad Jack.
Enter Sophocles.
Call ye this a woman?
Yes, sir, she is a woman.
Sir, I doubt it.
I thought you had made experience.
Yes, I did so, and almost with my life.
You rid too fast, sir.
Pray not be not mistaken. By this hand, your wife's as chaste and honest as a virgin, for anything I know. 'Tis true, she gave me a ring.
For rutting?
No, much deceived still. Believe me, I never kissed her since, and now coming in visitation like a friend, I think she's mad, sir. Suddenly she started and snatched the ring away and drew her knife out. To what intent I know not.
Is this certain?
As I am here, sir.
I believe you honest, and pray continue so.
Enter Maria.
She comes.
Now, damsel, what will your beauty do if I forsake you? Do you deal by signs and tokens? As I guess then, you'll walk abroad this summer and catch captains, or hire a piece of holy ground in the suburbs and keep a nest of nuns?
Oh, do not stir her. You see in what a case she is?
She's dogged, and in a beastly case, I'm sure. I'll make her if she have any tongue yet tattle. Sophocles, prithee observe this woman seriously, and eye her well, and when thou hast done, but tell me, for thou hast understanding, in what case my sense was when I chose this thing.
Tell you, I have seen a sweeter...
100 times cry oysters. There's a poor beggar wench about Blackfriars runs on her breech, maybe an empress to her.
Nay, now you're too bitter.
Never a whit, sir. I'll tell thee, woman, for now I have day to see thee, and all my wits about me, and I speak not out of passion neither. Leave your mumping. I know you're well enough. Now would I give 1,000,000 but to vex her. When I chose thee to make a bedfellow, I took more trouble than 20 terms can come to. Such a cause, of such a title, and so everlasting that Adam's genealogy may be ended ere any law find thee. I took a leprosy, nay worse the plague, nay worse yet a possession, and had the devil with thee, if not more, and yet worse, was a beast, and like a beast had my reward, a jade to fling my fortunes. For who that had but reason to distinguish the light from darkness, wine from water, hunger from full satiety, and fox from fern bush that would have married thee?
She is not so ill.
She's worse than I dare think of. She's so lewd. No court is strong enough to bear her cause. She have neither manners, honesty, behavior, wifehood, nor womanhood, nor any mortal can force me think she had a mother. No, I do believe her steadfastly, and know her to be a woman wolf by transmigration. Her first form was a ferret's underground. She kills the memories of men. Not yet?
Do you think she's sensible of this?
I care not. Be what she will. The pleasure I take in her, thus I blow off. Whew. The care I took to love her, like this point I untie, and thus I loose it. The husband I am to her, thus I sever. My vanity, farewell, for you have been so near me as to bear the name of wife. My unquenched charity shall tell you thus much. Though you deserve it well, you shall not beg. What I ordained your jointure, honestly you shall have settled on you in half my house. The other half shall be employed in prayers. That meritorious charge I'll be at also yet to confirm you Christian. Your apparel and what belongs to build up such a folly keep, I beseech you. It infects our uses. And now I am for travel.
Now I love you, and now I see you are a man. I'll talk to you, and forget your bitterness.
Now, man.
Oh, Pliny, if thou ever wilt be famous, make but this woman all thy wonders.
Sure, sir, you have hit upon a happy course, a blessed. And what will make you virtuous?
She'll ship me.
A way of understanding I long wished for, and now 'tis come. Take heed you fly not back, sir. Methinks you look a new man to me now, a man of excellence. And now I see some great design set in you. You may think now, and so may most that know me, 'twere my part weakly to weep your loss, and to resist you, nay, hang upon your neck, and like a dotard, urge my strong tie upon you. But I love you, and all the world shall know it, beyond woman, and more prefer the honor of your country, which chiefly you are born for, and may perfect the use you make of other nations, the ripening of your knowledge, conversation, the full ability and strength of judgment, than any private love or wanton kiss. Go, worthy man, and bring home understanding.
This were an excellent woman to breed schoolmen.
For if the merchant through unknown seas plow to get his wealth, then, dear sir, what must you to gather wisdom? Go, and go alone, only your noble mind for your companion, and if a woman may win credit with you, go far. Too far you cannot. Still the farther the more experience finds you. And go sparing, 1 meal a week will serve you, and 1 suit. And 1 suit through all your travels. For you'll find it certain the poorer and the baser you appear, the more you look through still.
Dost hear her?
Yes, yes.
What would this woman do if she were suffered upon a new religion?
Make us pagans. I wonder that she writes not.
Then when time and fullness of occasion have new made you, and squared you from a sot to a senior, or nearer from a jade to a courser, come home an aged man, as did Ulysses, and I your glad Penelope.
that must have as many lovers as I languages, and what she does with one in the day, in the night undo it with another.
Much that way, sir. For in your absence, it must be my honor that must make me spoken of hereafter, to have temptations, and not little ones, daily and hourly offered me, and strongly, almost believed against me, to set off the faith and loyalty of her that loves you.
What should I do?
I would travel. Did you not mean so?
Alas, no! Nothing less, man. I did it but to try. Sir, she's the devil, and now I find it, for she drives me. I must go. Are my trunks down there and my horses ready?
Sir, for your house, and if you please to trust me with what you left behind.
Bring down the money.
As I am able, to my poor fortunes, to govern as a widow, I shall long to hear of your well-doing and your profit, and when I hear not from you once a quarter, I'll wish you in the Indies or Cataya. Those are the climes must make you.
How's the wind? She'll wish me out of the world anon.
For France, 'tis very fair. Get you aboard tonight, sir, and lose no time. You know the tide stays no man. I have cold meats ready for you.
Fare thee well. Thou hast fooled me out of the kingdom with a vengeance, and thou canst fool me in again.
Not I, sir. I love you better. Take your time and pleasure. I'll see you horsed.
I think thou'd see me hanged, too, were I but half as willing.
Anything that you think well of, I dare look upon.
You'll bear me to the land's end, Sophocles, and other of my friends, I hope.
Never doubt, sir, you cannot want companions for your good. I am sure you'll kiss me ere I go. I have business, and stay long here I must not.
Get thee going, for if thou tarriest but another dialogue, I'll kick thee to thy chamber.
Fare you well, sir, and bear yourself, I do beseech you once more, since you have undertaken doing wisely, manly and worthily. 'Tis for my credit, and for those flying fames hear of your follies, your gambols, and ill breeding of your youth, for which I understand you take this travel. Nothing should make me leave you else. I'll deal so like a wife that loves your reputation and the most large addition of your credit, that those shall die. If you want lemon waters or anything to take the edge of the sea off, pray speak, and be provided.
Now the devil that was your first good master shower his blessing upon ye all, into whose custody
I do commit your reformation. And so I leave you to your stilo novo.
Exit Maria.
I will go. Yet I will not. Once more, Sophocles, I'll put her to the test.
You'd better go.
I will go then. Let's seek my father out and all my friends to see me fare aboard. Then, women, if there be a storm at sea worse than your tongues can make, and waves more broken than your dissembling faiths are, let me feel nothing but tempests till they crack my keel.
So, exeunt, that was the end of Act 4. At the beginning, we had almost a pair of matching scenes in which the two unhappy men were complaining about their difficult women, and each was informed that something was wrong with her. And then Maria came in, and it all kind of got even weirder. What have we got to say about the tail end of Act 4? Liza?
Well, I find there's a lack of stage directions, but what we're to understand is that Maria is feigning madness, and that her madness is nonverbal, and this is an opportunity for your boy actor comedian to show off, physical tricks and movements, and the dialogue gives us some indication of what that actor is doing. So that would be very interesting to workshop on its feet. She also seems to be making some gestures that the men on stage take for obscenity. The whole thing about you'll hire a piece of holy ground in the suburbs and keep a nest of nuns. That's a reference to a brothel, not a nunnery.
Yeah, we also had the servant earlier on say that she wasn't wearing very much and dressed a bit as if she might be in the suburbs, where I presume brothels were known to be.
Yeah, basically she's dressing like a whore or like a beggar. And again, it's very much a theatrical set piece. But then he says, Petruchio declares his intention to travel, and suddenly she has her self-possession back and she's speaking in pentameter and saying, "Good, that's a good idea. Go, win a reputation, wave handkerchief, farewell."
I've packed a lunch for you.
I love the
Oh,
lunch.
beats.
Eric, did you have a hand up earlier?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I love how, it's kind of a reflection of what Petruchio did, basically, where he was kind of like, I'm gonna pretend to be sick, and they get him, or they bring in the doctor and that kind of thing. But the difference being that they don't call in a doctor or sort of, some mental health professional who didn't exist at the time, obviously. But they just kind of don't know what to do with this. They're like, do we go along with it? Like, it's two men also, it's Petruchio and Sophocles, and they're just like, what just did she? I don't. Okay, I'm gonna go now. That's kind of what happens ultimately, and it's kind of like Petruchio basically just kind of talks himself into being kicked out of his own house, basically, as far as I can tell.
Which has already happened at least once in the play.
Yeah.
Alan, did you have a hand up?
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue about dressed like someone from the suburbs is possibly partly a deliberate counterpoint to the scene 2 days ago, where she was demanding, the fanciest clothes possible at the highest possible cost. Hubby's got money, I'm going to spend it. And there may also be a sort of class issue here of, the suburbs, yes, that's where the poor people are. But I think Petruchio's speeches need an awful lot of annotations in there, because I got the impression that at certain points he's actually addressing Maria, even though he's actually in dialogue with Sophocles.
Yeah.
And I think well done those who coped with that dichotomy that was going on there, but it does need a bit of extra. And there was also, I was looking for a stage direction to say that the servants had got the hell out, because I think they must have exited at the point that Sophocles came in.
Well, I'm not sure. That's quite interesting, yes, but also it might be a more interesting scene if it's being avidly looked on by the servants. Mm-hmm. Definitely a lot to workshop there. Elizabeth, was that a hand?
Yeah, I was just thinking about what you just said, Aliki, because the last conversation we had between Maria and Petruchio, they were alone, and they were trying to communicate and struggling. And the kind of things escalated out of control. Things continue to escalate out of control, but this time with Sophocles there. And I just like the fact that when someone else is there, or when the servants are there, I feel like the one-upmanship between Maria and Petruchio goes out of control completely. I love the way she refers to places that she'd have him go. I think she said Catayan or the Indies. And I was like, and he said, "Oh, well, what about France? Why does it have to be the Indies?"
There is, I think, a lot of call and response in these scenes and in these interactions that we're not necessarily getting, but that's a really good one. Thanks. Dan?
Yeah.
I haven't been here for the other sessions, but I would be interested to see whether the point that Elizabeth brought up about their discussion escalating because the servants are present is mirrored in others, not mirrored necessarily in other scenes, but if it's a device whereby people feel more secure talking about or raising up issues once they're in the presence of other people, which is often a device used in real life.
I was
Yeah.
only here for the first session, but I think there's a lot of this dichotomy between private life of a couple and the public life, the outward face that they show as the engine of this comedy. Any further thoughts on those scenes, Lynn?
Yeah, just to sort of agree that there's we definitely would want to think about the public-private dichotomy. Their initial confrontation in the beginning of the play is quite public. It's extremely public. You know, she's above on the balcony, surrounded by other women. There's Petruchio on the ground with other men. So her initial challenge of, I'm not going to sleep with you till I'm ready. It's very, very public. And as I was pointing out a couple of days ago, Petruchio says, one of the things he says is that what he's concerned about is his reputation. So giving in to her demands is going to make him talk badly of holding out, is going to make other different people. It's like he has no good way to ride this out in terms of his reputation, and that's extremely troubling to him. So there is something very public about this confrontation. But they did also have that one scene where they just spoke to one another, and what was actually going on in that scene is actually quite hard to decipher. So yeah, how public is this confrontation? Who's there? What difference does that make? That's something that all needs thinking about in an actual production.
Liza talked about workshopping, and I think there's a lot to be gained from workshopping this play. There's so much there that we're barely getting a glimpse of that's already in the text and available to us.
Yeah.
Before we move on, anything else? Eric, yeah.
I was just gonna, it's basically to top Lynn's point is just kind of, like in this one, Petruchio gets word of Maria through Pedro, basically going, your wife is not very well. She's dressed like this, she's behaving like this. And since like if the most important thing is his reputation and like what other people think of him, then that's already going to put him in, I mean, he's already irritated, tired, blah, blah, but that's already going to put him in a state of mind that is not very good. And then she comes in and he's like, I mean, Pedro also goes, yeah, she's been talking to Sophocles, which we were informed before that he's jealous of that sort of relationship. So he's kind of like, what on earth is going on? How dare you? And Sophocles then enters, bringing more sort of adding more fuel to the fire kind of thing. And then Maria finally enters to sort of tell him to go. So it's sort of understandable that he doesn't know what to do with this. This is not a situation he's ever been in before, because he's always been in control.
I think reputation, definitely. If you remember, we started this play with a discussion between Sophocles and Tranio and some others maybe about this marriage, and saying, oh, he has this terrible reputation for being horrible to women, and she's such a gentle little flower. And then kind of the next thing we saw is her publicly shutting him out of her house and bed and saying, I'll never have anything to do with you. Yeah. Okay, let's move on then to the final act. Act 5, Scene 1. Enter Petronius and Byancha, the proto-feminist agitator, with 4 papers.
Now, whether I deserve that blame you gave me, let all the world discern, sir.
If this motion, I mean this fair repentance of my daughter, spring from your good persuasion, as it seems so, I must confess I spoke too boldly of you, and I repent.
The first touch was her own, taken no doubt from disobeying you. The second, I put to her when I told her how good and gentle yet with free contrition again you might be purchased. Loving woman, she heard me, and I thank her, thought me worthy observing in this point. Yet all my counsel and comfort in this case could not so heal her, but that grief got her share too, and she sickened.
I'm sorry she's so ill, yet glad her sickness has got so good a ground.
Here comes Moroso.
Oh, you're very welcome. Now you shall know your happiness.
I am glad on't. What makes this lady here?
A dish for you, sir. You'll thank me for hereafter.
True, Moroso. Go get you in and see your mistress.
She is sick, sir, but you may kiss her whole.
How?
Comfort her.
Why am I sent for, sir?
Will you in and see?
Maybe she needs confession.
By Saint Mary, she shall have absolution then, and penance, but not above her carriage.
Get you in, you fool.
Here comes the other two.
Enter Rowland and Tranio.
Now, Tranio, good evening to you too, and you're welcome.
Thank you.
I have a certain daughter.
Would you had, sir?
No doubt you know her well.
Nor never shall, sir. She is a woman, and by the ways unto her are like the finding of a certain path after a deep fallen snow.
Well, that's by and by still. This daughter that I tell you of is fallen a little crop sick with the dangerous surfeit she took of your affection.
Mine, sir?
Yes, sir. Or rather, as it seems, repenting. There she lies within, debating on it.
Well, sir.
I think 'twere well you would see her.
If you please, sir, I am not squeamish of my visitation.
But this I'll tell you, she's altered much. You'll find her now another Livia.
I have enough of the old, sir.
No more, fool. To look gay babies in your eyes, young Rowland, and hang about your pretty neck.
I'm glad on it, and I thank my fates I have escaped such execution.
Blush you till you blush again.
That's hard, sir. She must kiss shamefully ere I blush at it. I never was so boyish. Well, what follows?
She's mine now, as I please to settle her, at my command, and where I please to plant her. Only she would take a kind of farewell of you, and give you back a wandering vow or two you left in pawn, and 2 or 3 slight oaths she lent you to, she looks for.
She shall have them, with all my heart, sir. And if you like it better, a free release in writing.
That's the matter. And you from her you shall have another Rowland, and then turn tale to tale, and peace be with you.
So be it. Your 20 pounds sweat, Tranio.
'Twill not undo me, Rowland. Do your worst.
Come, shall we see her, sir?
Whate'er she says, you must bear manly, Rowland, for her sickness has made her somewhat teatish.
Let her talk till her tongue ache, I care not. By this hand thou hast a handsome face, wench, and a body daintily mounted. Now do I feel 100 running directly from me as I pissed it.
Enter Livia, discovered a bed, and Moroso by her.
Pray, draw him softly. The least hurry, sir, puts her to much impatience.
How is, daughter?
Oh, very sick, yet somewhat better, I hope, a little lightsomer, because this good man has forgiven me. Pray set me higher. Oh, my head.
Well done, wench.
Father, and all good people that shall hear me, I have abused this man perniciously. Was never old man humbled so. I have scorned him and called him nasty names. I have spit at him, flung candles' ends in his beard, and called him harrow, that must be drawn to all he does, condemned him. For methought then he was a beastly fellow. Oh God, my side! A very beastly fellow, and gave it out. His cassock was a barge cloth, pawned to his predecessor by a sculler. The man yet living, I gave him purging comfits at a great Christmas once, that spoiled his chamblet breeches. And one night I strewed the stairs with peas as he passed down, and the good gentleman, woe worth me for it, even with this reverend head, this head of wisdom, told 22 stairs good and true, missed not a step, and as we say verbatim, fell to the bottom, broke his casting bottle, lost a fair toadstone of some 18 shillings, jumbled his joints together, had 2 stools, and was translated. All this villainy did I, I, Livia, I alone, untaught.
And I, unasked, forgive it.
Where's Byancha?
Here, cousin.
Give me drink.
There.
Who's that?
Rowland,
Oh, my dissembler, you and I must part. Come nearer, sir.
I am sorry for your sickness.
Be sorry for yourself, sir. You have wronged me, but I forgive you. Are the papers ready?
I have him here. Will please you view him?
Yes?
Show him the young man too. I know he's willing to shift his sails too. 'Tis for more his advancement. Alas, we might have beggared one another. We are young both, and a world of children might have been left behind to curse our follies. We had been undone, Byancha, had we married, undone forever. I confess I loved him. I care not who shall know it, most entirely. And once, upon my conscience, he loved me. But farewell that. We must be wiser, cousin. Love must not leave us to the world. Have you done?
Yes, and am ready to subscribe.
Pray stay then. Give me the papers and let me peruse them. And so much time as may afford a tear at our last parting.
Pray, retire and leave her. I'll call you presently.
Come, gentlemen, the shower must fall.
Would I had never seen her.
Exeunt.
Thou hast done bravely, wench.
Pray heaven it prove so.
There are the other papers. When they come, begin you first, and let the rest subscribe hard by your side. Give them as little light as drapers do their wares.
Didst mark Moroso in what an agony he was, and how he cried most when I abused him most?
That was but reason.
Oh, what a stinking thief is this! Though I was but to counterfeit, he made me directly sick indeed. Thames Street to him is a mere pomander.
Ha, let him be hanged.
Amen.
And lie you still, and once more to your business.
Call him in. Now, if there be a power that pities lovers, help now and hear my prayers.
Enter Petronius, Rowland, Tranio, Moroso.
Is she ready?
She has done her lamentations. Pray, go to her.
Rowland, come near me, and before you seal, give me your hand. Take it again. Now kiss me. This is the last acquaintance we must have. I wish you ever happy. There's the paper.
Pray stay a little.
Let me never live more, but I do begin to pity this young fella. How heartily he weeps.
There's pen and ink, sir.
Even here I pray you, 'tis a little emblem, how near you have been to me.
There.
Your hands too, as witnesses.
By any means. To the book, son.
with all my heart.
You must deliver it.
There, Livia, and a better love light on thee. I can no more.
To this you must be witness too.
We will.
Do you deliver it now?
Pray set me up. There, Rowland, all thy old love back, and may a new to come exceed mine, and be happy. I must no more.
Farewell.
A long farewell.
Exit Rowland.
Leave her by any means till this wild passion be off her head. Draw all the curtains close. A day hence you may see her. 'Twill be better. She is now for little company.
Pray, tender, I must to horse straight. You must needs along too, to see my son aboard. Were but his wife as fit for pity as this wench, I were happy.
Time must do that too. Fare you well. Tomorrow you shall receive a wight to quit your sorrow.
You did.
Exeunt. So we have the two lovers, the old and the young, called to the bedside of the ailing Livia, well-read Elizabeth. What a fabulous scene. I'm not entirely sure what the two women are up to with all of the papers, but the way in which Moroso really didn't want to go in and see her because yuck, and Rowland very clearly was desperate to lay one last glance upon her, and this fabulous way in which she sent him up. I'm sorry I set your beard on fire and gave you the runs and made you fall down a flight of stairs. Oops, bad me. How delightful. Sorry, talking too much. Thoughts? Eric.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think that what they were doing was just kind of, because the whole witness thing sounds a bit like sort of they're getting him to like a civil marriage kind of thing, but I don't know if that happened at the time, like without a priest there. So I don't know how that would work. But, maybe that's just me.
It might just be a promise. Certainly they didn't want them to see what the paper was.
Yeah.
Alan.
I think it's a form of prenup, and I get the impression that the document that was produced the first time round was not the document that was signed the second time round. There's an American legal phrase, is it postal fraud? Of producing documents which get changed between examination and signature.
I don't think it can be postal fraud, but I understand what you mean.
Yeah. So, I mean, it wouldn't be legally binding if the person didn't actually know what they were signing, but this is a comedy, so we're going to ignore that fact. I was enjoying the kind of period detail, though, when Byancha, I think, is talking about how we don't want them to actually read what they're signing, because I think both Rowland and Moroso are going to be signing things that they assume are different from what they are actually signing. We're going to keep it dark in the room the way a draper, who is, I think, a textile merchant, keeps the room dimly lit when he's showing you his stuff. So it's like an interesting.
Don't notice that it's moth-eaten or
it's moth-eaten. It's got a hole. Like it's not as nice as it looks. And later on, they're so mean to Moroso. What a stinking thief is this? Though I was but to counterfeit, he made me directly sick indeed. Thames Street to him is a mere pomander. So, like one of the busiest, smelliest streets in London smells like perfume compared to him. It's like he's not only like old and unattractive, he's literally smelly. Oh dear.
I think maybe he has bad breath. So there's a whole lot of stuff to be done when he leans close to her and...
Hello.
Eric. Oh, and Kyle afterwards.
There was, similar to An Englishman for My Money, where, there's a sort of one of the suitors, in order to get married to the woman he loves, who is not approved by the father, of course. He's like, oh, I'm dying, I'm sick. Please, I have this land that I want to sign over to your daughter because I love her, but I have to marry her first, and so she can inherit me when I die. And then he does it, and then as soon as the papers are signed and it's sorted, it just kind of goes, oh, I'm fine now. It feels a bit like that.
Kyle?
Yeah, I was confused by his emotional response to things, because at the beginning it seems like he was resisting what was going on, and he seemed kind of angry. He's still insulting women, like mirroring Petruchio's insults, and yet then he seems to suddenly go extremely sad in that scene. And it was hard. I didn't catch that he was sad until after the response of the other that Elizabeth played. Livia.
As I said with the previous scene, I think there's a lot of stuff that we would find in the text if we were to mine it. Alan.
Another thing to note in the text is in the manuscript version actually says that Livia is carried in sick in a chair by servants.
Right.
As well, really laying it on thick.
I mean, she's clearly laying it on thick. Sorry, Alan,
Yeah, I must admit the scene we've had of domestic violence expressed there, the antique variant of greasing the stair rods. Reminded me of the old gag about, oh, did you miss a step then, son? No, I hit every bloody one.
There's something there in the contrast of the two men's responses to her sickness that I think there's a great deal to be mined for. Yeah. Sorry, did I miss a hand? I thought I saw some movement. No. Okay, shall we go on to scene 2? Act 5, scene 2. Enter Jaques, Pedro, and porters with chest and hampers.
Bring them away, sirs.
Does the great trunks go too?
Yes, and the hampers. Nay, be speedy, masters. He'll be at sea before us else.
Oh, Jaques, what a blessed turn hast thou.
I hope so.
To have the sea between these and this woman. Nothing can drown her tongue but a storm.
By your leave, will get us up to Paris with all speed. For on my soul, as far as Amiens, she'll carry Blanc away to Lyon Quay, and ship 'em presently. We'll follow ye.
Now could I wish her in that trunk.
God shield, man. I had rather have a bear in't.
Yes, I'll tell thee, for in the passage, if a tempest take ye, as many do, and you lie beating for it, then, if it please the fates, I would have the master, out of a powerful providence, to cry, lighten the ship of all hands, or we perish. Then for this one, as best spared, should by all means overboard presently.
Oh, that condition. So we were certain to be rid of her. I would wish her with us, but believe me, Pedro, she should spoil the fishing on this coast forever. For none would keep her company but dogfish, as currish as herself, or porpoises, made to all fatal uses. The 2 fish streets, where she but once arrived amongst the whitings, would sing a woeful miserere, Pedro, and mourn in poor John, till her memory were cast o' shore again, with a strong sea breach. She would make God Neptune and his fire fork, and all his demigods and goddesses, as weary of the Flemish Channel, Pedro, as ever boy was of the school. 'Tis certain, if she but meet him fair, and were well angered, she would break his godhead.
Oh, her tongue, her tongue!
Rather her many tongues.
Or rather, strange tongues.
Her lying tongue.
Her lisping tongue.
Her long tongue.
Her lawless tongue.
Her loud tongue.
And her licorice.
Many other tongues, and many stranger tongues than ever Babel had to tell his runes, were women raised withal, but never a true one.
Enter Sophocles.
Home with your stuff again, the journey's ended.
What does your worship mean?
Your master, oh Petruchio, oh poor fellows.
Oh, Jake.
Oh, your master's dead, his body coming back, his wife is devil, the grief of her.
Has killed him.
Killed him.
Is there no law to hang her?
Get ye in and let her know her misery. I dare not, for fear impatience seize me. See her more, I must away again. Bid her for wifehood, for honesty, if she have any in her, even to avoid the shame that follows her. Cry if she can, your weeping cannot mend it. The body will be here within this hour, so to tell her, and all his friends to curse her. Farewell, fellows.
Exit Sophocles.
Oh, Jacques.
My worthy master.
My most beastly mistress, hang her.
Split her.
Drown her directly.
Starve her.
Stink upon her.
Stone her to death. May all she eat be eggs, till she run kicking mad for men.
And he, that man that gives her remedy, pray heaven, he may even ipso facto lose his longings.
Let's go discharge ourselves, and he that serves her, or speaks a good word of her from this hour, a sedgely curse light on him, which is Pedro. The fiend ride through him booted and spurred, with a scythe at's back.
Exeunt. A very short little scene, but I think worth discussing because of all of that quite spectacular wordplay between the servants at Maria's expense.
Yeah, it seems like they've forgotten that last time we saw Maria, she spoke him fair, and that we the audience know that Petruchio never intended to travel, he just intended to convince her that he was. She took, as with the sickness, she took his idea and said, yes, this is a good idea. Yes, I'll manage your house very well. I'm so proud of you. You're going to become a better man. Farewell, farewell. Yeah. And so that doesn't seem to merit all of this cursing that the servants do of her.
Alan, yeah. And
yeah, I mean, I think actually the way the servants are reacting there does reinforce my thought earlier that the servants were not present for that dialogue that involved Petruchio, Maria, and Sophocles earlier. Otherwise, they might have been a little bit more aware of which way the wind was coming from.
Yeah, good point. Eric?
Yeah. I was going to say that I think this reinforces Lynn's, well, not theory, but like, observation that it's the reputation sort of, and that they're trying to one up each other because he basically, assuming, he's pretending to be dead rather than actually dead. It's basically like, well, what is worse than pretending to be sick with, or mad or whatever? It's pretending to be dead. So yeah, I don't know how he's going to get out of this one, but we'll see, I guess.
Well, we were talking about one-upmanship before. I think it was Lynn who used the term, and what's even better than being mad, right? I think also just the sheer exuberance of the two servants trying to outdo each other in describing her awfulness. I think, sometimes it's just there for fun, and I wonder if it's just there for fun and to cover whatever needs to happen in order for Petruchio to arrive, or whoever arrives next.
Yeah. Petruchio has a long learning curve, doesn't he? Because I know I'll pretend to be really sick and that'll make her sad, and then we'll be reconciled. Oh, he's sick. Actually, he has the plague. We all have to leave the house. Okay, I'm leaving you. I'm going off to travel because I can't live with you. Oh, that's a great idea. Travel is really improving. You'll be a better man when you finally come back in 20 years, like Ulysses did. So, I mean, he keeps trying to test her and she flips the test around and wrong foots him. And so he's pretty obviously, because this is a comedy, he's not really dead. He's going to fake being dead. That'll go fine. It's like, what could go wrong? She's smarter than he is, and he hasn't figured out that she is she's going to use that to her advantage, just the way he's done with his two previous tests. Like, Petruchio, honey.
Let's get you buried immediately. I can't bear to look on you. I don't know what you
Yeah.
Liza, yeah.
Oh, actually, I think Rachael was first. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I wonder if she'll flip it on him again and wind up smoking him out by saying that she's getting remarried or something.
Oh, yeah.
Since he's passed on.
It's another good trick. Yeah.
To Moroso.
Liza.
Yeah. Moroso of the terrible breath.
Yeah, I was thinking this morning that of the trope of the testing trope, the early modern play trope where you test someone's loyalty by doing terrible things and making them unhappy to see how they take it. again, usually done by male characters to female characters. But one of the most benign iterations of the testing trope is faking your own death to see if the other person is sorry. So I'm interested to see how this plays out.
Eric?
Yeah, I was going to mention a different play that I can't remember the title of right now, but I remember the plot because it like there's this huge like B plot that is not really relevant to the A plot, but it's kind of it ends in a servant getting sort of ending up in prison for wrong reasons, but basically it kind of the love interest of one of the characters pretends to be dead, and she goes, "Oh, what am I gonna do without you?" And then obviously he goes, "I'm not dead actually," but he ends up tied up on a chair in her room because that's the safest place to sort of keep him, apparently, because he's a traitor. So yeah, it's it's. There's a part of me going, have they seen that? Is that what is going to happen? I'm just, I don't know. Bondage and pretending to die.
I mean, I think Liza's right that it's a very common trope. Everybody's seen the, I'll just pretend I'm dead now thing by now.
Yeah.
Moliere uses it in the next century, well, later in this century. And actually in the Imaginary Invalid, it actually ends up being really healing when the hypochondriac pretends he's dead. His family is absolutely grief stricken. It's like, we thought he was just a hypochondriac. We didn't know he was really sick. Oh my, they're just crushed. And he's like, they're pretending to be dead. And he realizes that they love him. And it's an aha moment for him. It's like, I don't need to be like horrible and controlling. I can let them be happy too and let them have what they want. And it's actually a very healing moment when he gets to hear that they love him. But Kate's not gonna Maria's not gonna do that. She's not gonna do
that. No.
Well, let's see what she does do, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay. Act 5, Scene 3, enter Rowland and Tranio stealing behind him.
What a dull ass was I to let her go thus. Upon my life, she loves me still. Well, paper, thou only monument of what I have had, thou all the love now left me and now lost, let me yet kiss her hand, yet take my leave of what I must leave ever. Farewell, Livia. Oh, bitter words. I'll read you once again, and then forever study to forget ye. How's this? Let me look better on it. A contract? A contract sealed and ratified? Her father's hand set to it? And Moroso's? I do not dream, sure. Let me read again. The same still, 'tis a contract.
So, Rowland, and by the virtue of the same, you pay me £100 tomorrow.
Art sure, Tranio, we are both alive now?
Wonder not, you have lost.
If this be true, I grant it.
'Tis most certain. There's a ring for you too, you know it.
Yes.
When shall I have my money?
Stay ye. When shall I marry her?
Tonight.
Take heed now, you do not trifle me. If you do, you'll find more payment than your money comes to. Come swear, I know I am a man, and find I may deceive myself. Swear faithfully, swear me directly. Am I Rowland?
Yes.
Am I awake?
You are.
Am I in health?
As far as I can conceive.
Was I with Livia?
You were, and had this contract.
Then shall I enjoy her?
Yes, if ye dare.
Swear to all this.
I will.
As thou honest, as them hast a conscience, as that may wring thee if thou liest, all these to be no vision but truth and serious.
Then by my honesty and faith and conscience, all this is certain.
Let's remove our places. Swear it again.
By God, heaven, blah, blah, 'tis true.
I have lost then, and heaven knows I'm glad on it. Let's go and tell me all, and tell me how, for yet I am a pagan in it.
I have a priest too, and all she come as even as two testers.
Exound. So, as we guessed, it was a contract switch. We'd completely forgotten to discuss the fact that Tranio bet with Rowland that they would in fact get married, and Rowland was certain that they wouldn't. So Tranio gets to collect. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's a that is a weird little gewgaw added to the plot. Tranio is a servant. He's not on their social level, so the money is more meaningful to him. Although he says, even if I have to pay the bet, it won't break me. I won't be financially ruined. So, yeah, the bet's really weird. But plays all through this century are very concerned with the intersection of mating and finance, like the way of the world and what's the Sheridan play that I like so much, School for Scandal. Yeah, it's always money always matters, so that there's the intersection of emotion and economics is very interesting to writers in this period. But this is really quite a creative take on that theme.
Yeah. Well, and we had that lovely little bit in the scene with Byancha, not Byancha, I beg your pardon, with Livia on the sick bed, where she was like, oh, we were too poor to get married. We would have just left desperate orphans. Yeah. Rachael.
I was going to say maybe from some of the other stuff we talked about, what Lynn just brought up, I think is interesting because maybe it's the issues with classism and capitalism at this point, and when those things in the classes, economic classes, become more rigid and are harder to move in between, that emphasis on finance becomes more important, because there's all these articles now about how people have to put things back further back in life, because of student loans or because of the wages not keeping up with inflation or things like that, and how people are making those decisions and looking at, a more, I don't know, maybe a little cold-blooded way in terms of finance when picking partners and making sure that somebody doesn't have so much debt or that they're paying it off in a certain timeliness, because there's people taking on second jobs, gig jobs, things like that could be talked about in a certain way, maybe in conversation when putting on this play.
Yeah,
as to how.
Sorry. That's an interesting lens to look at this play through, isn't it? The way that the economic inequality of our period is sometimes cast as generational inequality, and the property difference between the old and the young suitor here. Thanks. Yeah, Dan.
It would seem to me that the Tranio character is just following along the lines of the classic Arlecchino type character from Commedia dell'arte. But I think it is absolutely, I agree with Rachael, it's an interesting lens by which to look at it today in the modern light, if one were to stage this play today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think that I see Tranio as a servant necessarily, although clearly he doesn't seem to have as much money as even the poorer of Livia's suitors. Eric.
I was going to steer the discussion in a different direction. So if someone else has something to say about finance, I was just going to say that it's interesting that this is the second mention we've had of paganism twice in about 2 scenes or 3 scenes. It's like, for I'm a pagan in it, and before that, the last mention we had was Sophocles talking about how even if she was a priest for a different religion, we would totally just follow her into paganism. Even like we could totally do that.
I'm not sure that pagan is being used in quite that sense. I got the impression that here it meant ignorant. Kyle, you were saying something. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just thinking that it's interesting that if there is this economic kind of discord going on in terms of the content, which I think it seems to be there, it's interesting that at the same time, the dialogue seems to be so kind of seamless between the characters, so that relationships seem very equal. It's an interesting kind of, disconnect in some ways.
Yeah, that's a really interesting
Yeah,
point.
that's really interesting. Yeah. Tranio calls Byancha mistress. He's a servant in her household.
Oh,
But probably,
okay, I missed
yeah,
that.
but
I beg your
perhaps a
pardon.
fairly high level student. But that's a really interesting observation that we don't have really marked
Mm.
ways of speaking that mark people out as. I mean, Jaques is a little bit, but he doesn't. But Jaques and Pedro, who are the comedy servants, don't speak in prose as they often do in this period. So that's really interesting that they all do still live in the same world, and that language is a leveler rather than a marker of difference.
Which is also the true of the relations between the sexes in this play. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
The women talk a lot, and they talk very eloquently. Yeah.
Yeah, and very sexually explicitly. And they're very, very bawdy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rachael. And Alan, sorry. Rachael, then Alan.
About the little tongues. Wait. No. The paganism and stuff, and the talking, and the previous comic scene about tongues. I know, like in the Salem witch trials, that was part of like their evidence, is that they would talk in these tongues. So I wonder if that's part of if they've brought this into part of Maria's feigned madness, that was something there, because they brought up, these things, and if they're aligning it with paganism and witchcraft to some extent.
I don't think that paganism is allied with witchcraft in the early modern mind the way it is in the late 21st century mind.
What's interesting is that for a woman to exercise her tongue at all, your ideal woman is silent and obedient and submissive. So lots of gendered insults that are aimed at women are basically saying that they talk too much. So certainly her Maria's tongue is used as shorthand for her wildness and her uncouth nature, which has a lot of connotation, of sort of pagan connotations anyway.
Lynn.
The word pagan is from the Latin root meaning the countryside, like paisan, is from the same root. So I wonder if that meaning is present there, some uncouth person from the countryside.
Mm-hmm. I think one, I'm looking at Rowland's last line where he says, "Tell me all and tell me how, for yet I am a pagan in it." And I think what he's saying is, I have not yet heard the good news. I am someone who is ignorant of the truth.
An unbeliever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A way
Okay,
that the so-called virtuous pagans were referred to in periods of Christianity. People who would have been Christians if they'd only had the good fortune to live in the right time. Alan, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to go back to this discussion we had about the status of Tranio. I must admit, I did not get the impression that he's a servant, or that he's much worse off than the other younger men who we saw at the beginning of the play. And I think his use of the term mistress is actually respectful address rather than the description of an employee status.
That's how I think it too, Alan.
In the way that madam would be an appropriate form of address to a married woman.
Mm-hmm. Eric.
Before we continue sort of along with the play, I just wanted to highlight the whole sort of really cute moment of like, Tranio, pinch me, kind of. It's that like sort of swear me directly. Am I Rowland? Yes. Am I awake? Yeah. Am I in health? Oh my god. Am I good? What am I? is this really happening?
Yeah. And I love how Dan mined the comedy in those responses.
That was really well done.
It was
And
adorable.
there's a lot of young old comedy in this play, and I think there's a subtler one going on between Petruchio and Rowland. Petruchio, the previously married adult man, and Rowland, the very young man who's like, you know.
I'm a queen.
Alan, once more.
Yeah, I mean, it was just the scene that Eric's just highlighted there, the interaction between Rowland and Tranio. I think that shows them as being a very close status. You know, it is not a question of from two different classes. It is a question of, okay, maybe it's one's the gang leader, the other's a gang member, but I don't see a radical difference in status between them.
Kyle.
Yeah, I was, and I'm thinking too that this reminds me of later comedy. I mean, like it does feel like mid 1600s because there is such back and forth and, between the men and, everybody, but also between the men and women, which seems later, kind of restoration almost.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Act 5, Scene 4, enter Petronius, Sophocles, Moroso, and Petruchio born in a coffin.
Set down the body and one call her out.
Enter Maria in black and Jaques.
You are welcome to the last cast of your fortunes. There lies your husband, there your loving husband, here he that was Petruchio, too good for ye. Your stubborn and unworthy way has killed him ere he could reach the sea. If ye can weep, now ye have cause, begin, and after death, do something yet to the world, think ye honest. So many tears had saved him, shed in time, and as they are, so good a good mind go with them, yet they may move compassion.
Pray ye all hear me, and judge me as I am, not as you covet, for that would make me yet more miserable. 'Tis true I have cause to grieve, and mighty cause, and truly and unfeignedly I weep it.
I see there's some good nature yet left.
But what's the cause? Mistake me not this man as he is dead I weep for, heaven defend it. I never was so childish. But his life, his poor, unmanly, wretched, foolish life, is that my eyes, that full eyes pity, there's my mourning.
Dost thou not shame?
I do, and even to water, to think what this man was, to think how simple, how far below a man, how far from reason, from common understanding, and all gentry, while he was living here he walked amongst us. He had a happy turn, he died. I tell ye, these are the wants I weep for, not his person. To the memory of this man, had he lived but 2 years longer, had begot more follies than wealthy autumn flies. But let him rest. He was a fool, and farewell he. Not pitied, I mean, in the way of life or action, but any understanding man's that's honest. But only in posterity, which I, out of the fear his ruins might outlive him in some bad issue, like a careful woman, like one indeed born only to preserve him, denied him means to raise.
Unbutton me, I die indeed else. Oh, Maria, oh, my unhappiness, my misery.
Go to him, whore. If he perish, I'll see thee hanged myself.
Why, Maria?
I have done my worst and have my end. Forgive me. From this hour, make me what you please. I have tamed ye, and now I am vowed your servant. Look not strangely, nor fear what I say to you. There you kiss me. Thus I begin my new love.
Once again.
With all my heart.
Once again, Maria. Oh, gentlemen, I know not where I am.
Ye to bed then. There you quickly know, sir.
Never more your old tricks.
Never, sir.
You shall not need, for as I have a faith, no cause shall give occasion.
As I am honest, and as I am a maid, yet all my life, from this hour, since she makes so free profession, I dedicate in service to your pleasure.
I marry, this goes roundly off.
Go, Jaques, and get all the best meat that may be bought for money, and let the hogshead's blood, I'm born again! Well, little England, when I see a husband of any other nature, stern or jealous, I'll wish him but a woman of thy breeding. And if he have not butter to his bread till his teeth bleed, I'll never trust my travel.
Enter Rowland, Livia, Byancha, and Tranio.
What have we here?
Another Morris, sir, that you must pipe to.
A poor married couple desire an offering, sir. Never frown at it. You cannot mend it now. There's your own hand, and yours, Moroso, to confirm the bargain.
My hand?
Or mine.
You'll find it so.
A trick, a trick!
Yes, sir, we tricked you.
Father?
Hast thou lain with him? Speak!
Yes, truly, sir.
And hast thou done the deed, boy?
I have done, sir. That will serve the turn, I think.
A match, then! I'll be the maker-up of this. Moroso, there's now no remedy, you see. Be willing, for be or be not, he must have the wench.
Since I am overreached, let's in to dinner, and if I can, I'll drink away.
That's well said.
Well, sirrah, you've played a trick, look to it. And let me be a grandsire within 12 months, or by this hand I'll curtail half your fortunes.
There shall not want labor, sir, your money. Here's one has undertaken.
Well, I'll trust her. I'm glad I have so good a pawn.
I'll watch you.
Let's in and drink of all hands and be jovial. I have my colt again, and now she carries. And, gentlemen, whoever marries next, let him be sure he keep him to his text.
Exeunt. Well, so, Maria's...
There's an epilogue.
There's an epilogue, I beg your pardon. So let me just say, before we get to the epilogue, because that was quite a bit, Maria's trick worked. I'm not entirely sure how, but obviously it worked. Maybe he just decided that she really was cleverer than him, and he had to put up with it. And obviously, Livia's trick worked, and on we go. Epilogue.
The Tamer's tamed, but so as nor the men can find one just cause to complain of, when they fitly do consider in their lives they should not reign as tyrants o'er their wives. Nor can the women from this precedent insult or triumph, it being aptly meant to teach both sexes due equality, and as they stand bound to love mutually. If this effect arising from a cause well laid and grounded may deserve applause, we something more than hope our honest ends will keep the men and women too our friends.
A fitting epilogue. Well, that was quite a ride. Thank you to all of our wonderful, wonderful readers. Can we have some further thoughts on the play as a whole, or on today's reading? I'm not going to separate it out because it's been a lot and not everybody has been here for everything. So have at it. Lynn.
Oh, I think Kyle was first.
Oh, Kyle and then Lynn.
I was just going to say, it reminds me a lot of the, there's some saying where if you kiss somebody and then slap them, you tie them to you more strongly. It's that kind. There's that kind of masochistic sort of thing going on here.
Yeah. I wonder, like as Aliki was saying, her last ploy worked, but it's not clear how it worked. I mean, Aliki, you had a much more positive spin on it. It somehow made clear, it's like, okay, I give up. You're smarter than I am. The idea I had is that he breaks down and cries, and he breaks that sort of gender, women's weapons water drops. He breaks that taboo and weeps in front of her, and that's what signals to her, okay, I'm done. I've done my worst. I consider you tamed now. I take it all back. I am your loving wife. So how do we signal that to the audience that there's that pivot?
I think a lot of it will depend on the work that we've done up until then, creating the relationship between them, because the words only really give us the conflict, and what has to give us the fact that deep down they love, desire, and respect each other is the physicality of the actors and the blocking. Kyle, you had something to add?
Yeah, I was just thinking, in some ways, reading the epilogue and this, apology to the audience, it feels like the playwright is also kind of doing the same thing to the audience, or to the gendered audience that is happening in the play.
Yeah. Elizabeth.
Yeah, this ending was one of those that I was just like thinking all week long, how satisfying is the ending gonna be? I like the whole Petruchio has died thing. I think that kind of gave it a last little punch to kind of have the audience thinking, like, what if he really is dead? What and what's Mariah gonna do about it? But I think that the ending doesn't quite nullify all the problematic nature of the text itself. And I think this is the same in Taming of Ashru. It's like the ending is kind of, it's satisfying enough, but it doesn't nullify all the problematic nature of the marriage that they've had so far. She said, I've tamed thee and now I'm vowed your servant. I don't believe her, and I don't know if the audience would. It's kind of like this one-liner. She kind of says, "Oh, forgive me everything I've done before." And did we wrap up Livia and Rowland, or did they just sleep together?
They had a contract saying that they could get married, and they went off and got married and have consummated the marriage. So it can't be done.
Yeah. Tranio says he's got a priest ready, so they may even have had a ceremony. So
yeah. Liza.
Yeah, that there's a whole thing about consummation here, because an unconsummated marriage, even if you've taken your vows, an unconsummated marriage can still be annulled. So that sort of heightens the stakes for Mariah and Petruchio, and it also means that once Livia and Rowland are wed, they have to do the naughty as soon as possible to just make sure that it can't be undone.
Which is an interesting contrast to the other and longer lasting marriage. They've been married a week and they haven't had their marriage consummated, and then this lot have been married about 7 seconds and they've
right. or it happened in reverse order even. Yeah.
Rachael.
Yeah, it's kind of what you said at the top of this session, Aliki, about heterosexual relationships. I think this is the same thing that comes out of Taming of Ashru, is that and I think this happens in modern romantic comedies too, where people try to change another person, and try to change their value system, because through so much of this play, these two people, their values don't seem to match up. Not just that there's that abuse of, what's referred to, I think in one point, as a sword of Damocles of potential abuse or something like that going on. But this unhealthy idea that's put forward a lot of times of being able to change another person and not accepting people for who they are and going for somebody who's of a similar value system.
Dan or Alan, do either of you have something to say to round off our thoughts about this?
Yeah, well, I must admit, we've talked many times on these readings of The Curse of the Fourth Session. This one, actually, the fourth session did redeem it. It was the third session, the third quarter of the play, as it were, which I felt really dragged and lacked spirit and was deeply unpleasant in places. Whereas this one was moving at a much better pace. And I think that is in the words as well as the way we performed it. And the fact that we got the comedy brokers men, the two funny servants who for once were actually legitimately reasonably amusing, which sometimes the clown characters aren't. So I feel somewhat better about the piece today than I did at the close of yesterday.
Well, nothing ages like comedy, and nothing ages like the relations between men and women and what's considered acceptable in them. Dan, do you have any thoughts on today's session?
Not specifically on today's session, but just in general, I can just say that I really enjoyed this play. I think it does stand alone. It can be staged alone without any issues. I do think that, however, it really does, given that it was actually directly supposed to be written as a sequel, and given that audiences would have known about the other two plays, that it really does benefit from knowing, from being able to see what its predecessor was specifically. And the fact that it does share the names of characters, and I don't think that's by accident either. We had this whole discussion about what Tranio's status was. We all know Tranio was a servant in the other one. He may not be a servant necessarily now, but he is still carrying the same name. And I don't think that's by accident. Yeah. So, that can't be forgotten. And he still has lots of his personality traits still are pretty much the same, in fact, from the previous one. So for that reason, I would love to see how the two of them play off against each other. I know that's been done before. Also, I'd want to see how I know that the manuscript is different than the print. Certain things have been added, excised, modified. I'd love to see how the two of them, where the differences are between the two.
I'm also interested in the names, and I'm also interested in the fact that the names we have range so widely geographically. I know that early modern playwrights aren't necessarily particularly accurate with their naming culture, but I note that we have a French name, a Greek one, as well as the Italian ones. And I kind of wonder if that's meant to say something about the universality of marital relations. Okay. Eric, let's wrap it up.
That, because yesterday we were talking about obviously the problematic issues in this text and so on and so forth, and battle of we've said this whole thing all week. I'm just wondering if not so much at pace, but obviously having workshopped maybe a scene or two, or discussed further between actors and so on and so forth. Whether obviously the problems wouldn't disappear, but that's what makes it interesting. And seeing this at pace, I don't know if the jokes would go over our heads. I don't know if the problematic issues would go over our heads, as we discussed yesterday. But I think it's worth a shot. Maybe not necessarily as a full second look, super production. Although it would be funny to see in terms of physical comedy stuff going on. But yeah, I think at pace it would sort of redeem itself in a different way in terms of relying on the words as well as the actions, kind of, if that makes sense. Because cutting up comedy does not work very well.
Mm-hmm. I think that's true, but I also, I know I've said it at least twice already, but the thing that interests me about this play is that it seems to me that there's so much we haven't yet found that's implicit in the words as well as explicit, and really fun to workshop with. Okay, any absolutely final thoughts to wrap up? Because I'm conscious of the time.
Well, I think also, sorry, I think
go
Kyle
ahead.
raised a hand, but yeah, I think the sort of what's it called, I think Lynn said this during a different session once upon a time, where relying on the words and the text is actually quite important, and I think there's a lot to, as you said, a lot to mine here. So it kind of, yeah, it's. We can rely on these words and this text to sort of build a story, which is what you want.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really remarkably ingeniously constructed, this comedy.
Yeah, it's super clever. It is. But I agree with Ellen and with Elizabeth. There was a lot yesterday that was pretty troubling, and like Elizabeth, I'm on the fence about whether or not this happy ending really redeems the problematic material that we've dealt with before that. That's still an open question in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's part of what intrigues me about the idea of working with it further. Rachael. And Kyle, was that a raised hand?
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry, Rachael, then Kyle.
I was gonna say, usually when the ending doesn't kind of redeem the problematic stuff, I have an issue, but we've had so much wonderful conversation about gender and about people's relationships, and it's generated so much discussion that I think the discussion that you could have when performing this play could redeem that of itself. Could it, just because it's sparked so much mining in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say that much along the lines of what you were saying, that in that last scene with Rowland, where he's consummating the marriage, it seems like even though the play has torn down these gender roles, that's a moment where it's being reaffirmed. These gender roles are being reaffirmed, and it just reminded me of what Elizabeth had said about how problematic the ending of Shrew is. For that very reason, this has that in the opposite way, that kind of restoration, but it doesn't feel like it's going to last because the balance is still not there.
I would absolutely love a sequel about what Byancha got up to next. That's for sure.
I love it. The further adventures of Byancha.
There was a suggestion at the end of one of the previous scenes. There was a suggestion that she might be going to marry Petronius.
I think someone should marry Moroso because he's just there.
Oh my God, who will you curse with that fate?
I don't know, but someone should, because he's just hanging around there as a character. I think he needs to be married off.
Well, maybe one of the servants could marry him and inherit all his money.
Yes.
I think Petronius should marry him. He's the only one who likes him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So thank you, everyone, for your wonderful reading and fascinating thoughts. It's been a pleasure. I'm sorry I was a somewhat clumsy host, but I'll get better, I promise. This is Beyond Shakespeare. The earlier parts of the play can be found on our YouTube channel. There is also a podcast and a Patreon, so check those out. And home with your stuff again. The journey's ended.